Good morning. Today's lesson is about simple and compound interest. We're going to start with simple interest. So you do need a calculator. You can see I have one open here on the left-hand side of my screen. So let's get started. Interest is what you, when you borrow from a bank, you pay interest for the use of that money. So the bank is going to loan you money, but they need to make money off of that because that's what they're in business for. So they charge you what they call interest. And when you deposit your money into a savings account, you are paid interest because the bank is actually using your money, and so they're paying you interest for using your money. Simple interest is one type of a fee paid for the use of money, and you will always be provided with this formula, but let's just take a look at what the formula means. It's I equals P times R times T. I is the interest. Principal is the amount of the money borrowed or invested, so that's the original amount. R is your rate of interest, or the percent that is charged. And T is the time that the money is borrowed or invested, and it is always in years. So make sure you take note of that. Let's just look at our first example. To buy a car, Jessica borrowed $15,000 for 3 years at an annual simple interest rate of 9%. How much interest will she pay if she pays the entire loan off at the end of the 3rd year? So we need to find the interest she's going to pay. So here's your formula. I equals PRT. The principal is the original amount, and that's that $15,000. The rate is the 9%. And then the time is the 3. And since it's already in years, we're just going to leave it. So we're just going to substitute that in to our formula. And I always like to change my percentage to a decimal. I just think that's easier. I suppose if you know how to use the percent key, you are more than welcome to do that. But like I said, I always like to change it to the decimal. So remember, you just move the decimal over 2 times to the left. So let's just plug it into our calculator. We have 15,000. And I'm going to say times, and since I've changed it to a decimal, I'm going to say 0.09 times the 3 years, and the interest she will pay is $4,050. So let's just get your calculator ready. We're going to do this one. What is the total amount of interest she will pay? So after Elaine borrowed $2,000 for 3 years at a simple interest rate of 5%. So PRT, so our principal is the 2,000. Our percentage is the 5%, and our time is the 3 years. So let's just plug it in here. I'm going to change my my percentage to a decimal. And we're just going to calculate it in. So we have 2,000 times 0.05 times 3. Again, you will always be given that formula, so it's not that you have to memorize it. And the amount she will pay in interest is $300. So then the next question says, what's the total amount she's going to repay? Well, she obviously owes the $2,000 back because that's what she borrowed, but she's going to pay an additional $300. So the total she paid back is $2,300. Okay, so let's look at this one. Nancy invested $6,000, so there's your principal, in a bond at a yearly rate of 3%. And she did that. This one is looking for the time. So we need to find out the time. So we're kind of working backwards on this one a little bit, but we're still going to plug in what we know. We know the principal is 6,000. And we know the interest rate is 0.03. So now we're going to do the math we can, and we know that she invested $450. So that is the principal. Excuse me, that got a little sloppy. This is your principal, okay? I'm sorry, I said that backwards. That's the interest. I'm sorry, she invested. So this is the interest she earned, and we're going to work backwards to that. So I'm going to put my $450 in for my interest. 6,000 is my principal. The rate is 0.03. I'm going to do the math I can. So I'm going to take that 6,000 and I'm going to multiply it by 0.03. And I need to multiply that by the time, and that's going to equal 450. So This should look familiar to everybody. Remember what we do when we're solving equations. We draw the line down the middle. Right now, 180 is multiplying t, so I need to divide by 180, and I'm going to do that to both sides. So I'm going to take 450, and I'm going to divide it by 180, and I'm going to get 2.5. So 2.5% is what she is charged. Just write that over here. So let's keep going. The next one is going to be, we're looking for the rate. So we're kind of moving it around a little bit. Now we're looking for the rate. Still the same kind of thing. Looking for the rate though. So she invested, or TJ invested 4,000, and the time is 30 months. But remember, the time in this formula is always in years, and then this is the amount of interest that he earned. So we need to change that 30 months into years. So I'm going to divide it by 12. So if I take 30 and divide it by 12, because there are 12 months in a year, invested it for 2.5 years. Okay, so I'm just going to fill in what I know. I know the amount invested is the principal. I don't know the rate. I do know the time. Again, I'm going to do the math that I can. So I can do the 4,000 times the 2.5. So 4,000 times 2.5, because that's the years. And that's where the 10,000 comes from. I'm going to divide this down the middle. I'm going to divide this side by 10,000. And then I'm going to divide this side by 10,000. I'm obviously going to get a decimal. So 200 divided by 10,000, 0.02. So the rate is 0.02. Well, that's a decimal. So I need to make it a percentage. So I'm going to move that decimal over 2 times. So they were actually charged 2%. And I think this last one I said the rate was 2.5, and we were actually looking for time. So I apologize, I misspoke, and that just dawned on me. So here we go. We've got, we're looking for the interest on this one. So John deposited $1,000 into a savings account. And after 18 years, at 3.25%, how much is John going to have in his account? So make sure you read the problem. So sometimes you have to find the interest to find the actual answer at the end. So I'm going to put everything I know into my calculator. Here's my original amount. Excuse me, here's my original amount. Here's my rate. Here's my time. And I'm just going to put it in the calculator. Clear this out. I'm going to say 1,000 times 0.0325 times 18, because it's already in years, and I get $585. But now it's asking for how much will he have in his account at the end. So I have to add the 1,000 to that 585, and I get $1,585. So now let's look at compound interest. So compound interest is different from simple interest in that what happens, basically, you can read this, but what happens is the bank or the where you invest your money pays you basically interest on your interest. So they're compounding the interest onto the principal and then calculating the interest on that amount again. So the formula, and I will always give you this formula too, is A is the final amount, because the interest is actually added onto this at the end. You don't have to do any addition at the end to find the final amount. P is still the principal, R is the rate, and T is the time in years. And you can see there's this 1 right here. And basically what that's doing is it's adding the interest rate onto whatever you're multiplying it to. So if you want to add your percentage to your final amount at the end, all you have to do is add a 1 to the percentage and it automatically adds it. So let's just go through and do one. So here we have, you find Find the amount in your account if you start with $750 at 7.5% for 2.5 years. So you can see I filled it out. Here's the 750, that's your principal. Here's my rate. I changed that 7.5 to a decimal, and then I'm going to add the 1 to it. And here's my years. So let's just put this in the calculator. I'm going to do 750, and I'm going to use my parentheses and do 1 plus 0.075. Close your parenthesis. Remember, here's your caret key, and the caret key pulls it up and makes it an exponent. And then I'm going to do 2.5. And when I hit enter, that amount already has the interest added to the 750. So that amount actually includes the original principal. And remember, dollars only go out 2 decimal places, so I do have to round it. So you'll have $898.63 at the end. Here's another one. How much should you invest at 7.5 to have $200 after 5 years? So you want your amount to be $200. So we're going to have to do some stuff backwards. So here you can see for this principal, I've already added the 1 to it, because if your interest rate is 7, that's 0.07, and then I add the 1 and I'm raising it to the 5th. So I'm going to do the math that I can. So over here on my calculator, I'm going to take 1.07 and raise it to the 5th, and I get 1.4 times P. And I'm going to write this down here. So basically, I now have 200 is equal to P times this big thing, 1.402, blah, blah. I'm going to go ahead and leave that in my calculator. I'm going to divide this down the middle, and then I'm going to divide 200 by that number. So I'm going to do 200, and watch what I'm going to do. Divided by, and then I want to divide it by this previous answer, the 1.052. You could always clear it out and write that down and divide it by that number, but I'm going to do divided by second answer. And what that's going to do is it's going to divide it by my previous answer, and then I'm going to hit enter, and I get $142. So I should have invested $142.60, because I'm just going to round it, if I wanted to have 200 in my account after 5 years. So we're just kind of moving that variable around a little bit. So $142, and that rounds up to 60 cents. Okay, let's move here to the next one. So you put $1,000 in a bank account, $100, excuse me, at 4% interest, and leave it until you are 60. So we're all different ages. I happen to be 60, so we won't use my age. We'll use your age. Let's say we're 12. So I'm going to do 60 minus 12. So that's 48 years. Wow, that's a long time. So my T is 48. So that one says 46. Oh, and it says assume you're currently 14. I didn't read my own slide. But we'll go ahead and use the 46 because it's already in there. I apologize. It's early in the morning, I guess. So I'm going to put everything in. And here's my interest is 4%, so I'm going to add it to the 1. So I'm going to have 100, parenthesis, 1.04, close my parenthesis, and I'm going to raise it to the 46. See how much money. I'm going to have $607.48 at the end. Remember, it includes the original amount. So we have $607.48. Last one here. What about a mutual fund that pays 10% interest? So you're still assuming that you've got 46 years to do this. It's based on the previous slide. So I'm going to clear this out. We're going to do 100 times, I'm going to use the parentheses, 1.10, because now our interest rate is not 4%, it's 10%. I'm going to close it, caret key, 46, enter. You'd have $8,017.95. So you can see compound interest is, it's way better if you're getting the compound interest, but not so great if you would be paying that out. It's a lot more.